How are we doing, Kansas Jayhawk fans? This is your host, Nick Rondeau, bringing at you some Jayhawks Daily content. And, we're in that midweek lull. Coming off the Duke loss, unfortunately. We're in the midst of preparing for some tough games next week in Las Vegas. Some really tough non-conference competition. I love how Bill Self schedules this up. Gets us, Notre Dame, gets us a Syracuse, gets us a third team, TBD. Just this is really what gets the juices flowing. Tournament style type basketball, non-conference gets you prepared. Good non-conference, may I say, gets you prepared for the rigors of a very tough Big 12 schedule. This is why Bill Self knows what he's doing. This is why he's the best. Kansas gets really hard games to help build the resume, I guess, but also just you gotta know what your team really has. And after Duke and UNC, we're kind of questioning what we have. Maybe it's not what we've had in the past, but I don't question that the team is good. That was an incredibly good Duke team. You will see, similar to last year, most of Duke's, spreads in ACC games were 20 plus. They were winning by, and their margin of victories were about 20 plus, 15 plus. So keeping it close with that core group, 12 points. That Duke team will probably be doing pretty similar numbers this year as well. Just my, early on estimate about how John Shire and they look. But, that's them. That's Duke. This is a Kansas podcast. And we've got bigger games. We've got bigger games up ahead. We've even got UConn coming in, soon. So, and speaking of UConn, just dropping one at home stores to Arizona. Arizona's tough. Arizona is very tough. At least those two games are a lot later on in the season. But man, stopping Koa Pete, that's going to be tough. But on to a little bit of a topic of 2027. Yes, he recently took a visit for the Princeton game. Came for game day, kind of saw the environment. Princeton, not the best competition to go see, but the environment was good. The team was fun. The game was relatively fun. And it was one Davion Thompson. So as you can see, he got offered on that visit shortly after the game. Number 17 in the top 60 for 2027. They don't do top 100. They do 60. And he's 17. He's ranked number 3 in point guards, and he's going to be 6'2", 170 pounds, from Illinois originally, but he's been going to school in Branson, Missouri for Link Academy. Link Academy starting to show, not starting to show, has been a great, aid to Kansas in years past. This past class, we just got Trent Perry from Link Academy. Closely linked with Ethan Taylor. Ethan Taylor chose Michigan State, but I think if Davion Adkins had not chose Kansas first, Ethan Taylor probably would be a Jayhawk. Seeing that Link Academy is definitely, a close link to Kansas. So this Davion Thompson, and he's a good player. He really is. I mean, just watching the way he plays, he's a lefty, so he kind of catches you off guard for a second. But people say he looks like Brunson. I think that is just too much for the fact that he's a lefty, but it's not that far off. He's unorthodox, kind of. He does like to score. He creates his own shot, so that way of, a Brunson. But he's also, very pass heavy. Very pass heavy. And also one thing key distinction between him and Jalen Brunson is he is a very good defender. Very strong intensity, poke any loose ball, see something, attacks the ball first when it hits the ground rather than in their hand. I mean, just smart, intuitive stuff. And, a lot of those points are coming in transition. He's more of a two-way player, a real combo guard, rather than, what the traditional maybe lefty point guard you've seen in the past, But again, I don't think he's the speed of a De'Aaron Fox, but I think he's got a lot of high ceiling when it comes to defensive prowess, and that's something that Bill Self loves, is a guard who can play defense. I mean, heck, look at what I say a couple weeks ago. Taylor Kinney at a game-sealing block and 3 all within 30 seconds. I mean, the guy, this is what you want. You need a guy who also plays defense, who can help you out whenever, get some hard boards. But I'm going to create my own shot or create a shot for someone else. So I love it. Davion Thompson got offered on the visit. We are a long ways away. The only guy that he would be joining would be Javon Bardwell, who has not reclassified yet. But last I heard, he was attempting to, but it's a lot of classes. Who knows? Maybe he can't. Maybe he can get through. Maybe stay to 2027. We'll get someone else for 2025. Maybe Tyron Stokes. I'm hearing buzz. No, we won't speak to the Tyron Stokes stuff yet. Maybe next week, maybe in a lull. But Tyron Stokes, apparently it's Kansas and him are getting closer. They're getting closer. Nike's getting a little bit mad, apparently. Who knows? But we're going to get to this team because we got to talk about some of the things that we're looking for from some veteran leadership, some higher expectations, and it's just difficult. Who would I say has stepped up or exceeded expectations this year? Bryson Tiller for sure. He's had a couple of bad games recently, but we didn't expect the world out of him. We didn't expect one of the top 3 key players for us. So he's exceeded. Cole Rosario, another player. He's reclassified. Yes, he's a starter, but he reclassified so late that we're getting very high quality minutes, very, great defensive minutes, great offensive minutes, both shooting wise and rebounding. He's doing exactly what I want. He'd be on that list. But who's on the list of not so much? Melvin Council. And I do, I'm not going to be uber critical of Melvin Council. I just kind of have to speak to some of the offensive woes. And Bill talked about it himself. The first half of that game, he was abysmal. He was 1 of 8. Couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. Missed a 3. It was bad shot selection too. So that was the damning thing. It was a lot of it was also in my eyes a lot of shot selection. So, but he's got a great dribble drive. He's got a great dribble penetration. His first step's excellent. Sometimes he takes too many shots, and he gets within the paint, and instead of looking around for any open shooter when he's being collapsed on, he kind of just tosses up that one-handed floater, and it has not been going in. Melvin Council this year is not shooting well, if you haven't realized. He's shooting 7% from 3 and 37% from the field. That's terrible. I mean, you can't sugarcoat that. That's terrible. The only thing he's got going for him is he's getting 6 assists to about 1.5 turnovers. It's a pretty good turnover margin. He's on pace for what I was saying before the season. 5 to 6 assists a game. He's going to have a lot of ball dominant type of role, especially with no Darren Peterson right now. But he's just not. He's making good plays. Good alley-oop passes to Flory cutting from the backside. Good one to Cole Rosario in the same way. He's just not making that pass that is making you think, wow, like we are at that next step. We have that excellent facilitator. Even some of Boozer's passes the other day, Caden that is, they were just excellent. They were intuitive. They were, skipping a defender. They, a little bit of English on it. Just something that you were like, he created that shot. Melvin's not creating that many shots for anybody else. And Bill said it himself that he'd like to see him pass more, and specifically when he's driving, because even then it just makes it seem like you're a little less out of control. You can, you have enough time to find one of your teammates and find the open guy, because typically when you're dribble driving, they will collapse on you. That means at least one other defender is leaving. So that might mean the Flory slip. That might mean, the weak side help defender finds the corner man. You got to find something, because lately, Melvin, 37% from the field from a point guard who averages our most minutes a game, almost 30 minutes. That's not going to cut it at all. Nope, no chance. Just not going to. He's getting to the free throw line a little bit, but not really. Kind of early on in that game, the only guys really getting to the free throw line is Trey White and Flory Badunga. Those guys are getting to the free throw line, and I respect it. You've got to push hard to high intensity to get fouled. You got to also establish it. Now, I mean, we saw it. They completely dropped off Melvin for in drop coverage. The Duke team, they really did. I mean, they let everyone go well under screens, just well under, and he didn't need to. He was 1 for 4 from 3. That technically is 25%, but that's not a good number. But he's got such high potential that's why we expect it from him. We saw him at some of us saw him at St. Bonaventures. We're like, this guy's a dog, and he's a dog, but it's kind of he's not exactly the dog you're hoping for. You were hoping for, a big Rottweiler, dominating, doing everything. He's kind of giving us, I don't want to dog discriminate here. I don't want to do that, but you're expecting something bigger, something a little bit more productive, and he's not exactly been given that, so that's disappointing. Going on to the next one, and again, you're seeing the trend here. 2 of our 3 big transfers, and Trey White, besides last night, has not played excellent. But he played well. In the mecca of basketball, he carried that team with no Darren Peterson. He's off the list. He really did. He carried the team. But Jaden Dawson, he's 5 of 19 from three-point. Now, for those who are not that great at quick math, that's 27%. That's terrible, especially from a three-point specialist. That's awful. He shot 40%, allegedly, from Loyola Chicago. Like, how do you dip that hard? Like, is this just Rylan Griffin again? I don't get it. Like, some of his shots looked good. Some of them just looked like, just barely misses. But some of these were, like, perfectly wide open set plays, where he's taking a three, and he still managed to just, like, hit nothing. It's frustrating because it's got to be a confidence thing. I don't know how mechanically you could drop 14% just based on conference, because some of these are wide open, And it's disappointing. Jaden Dawson, especially in a moment where, like, no Darren Peterson is playing for us, you'd expect a player like him to really step up. You'd expect him to play better than a Cole Rosario. He hasn't. He has not in one game. I could have added El Marco to the list, but guess what? El Marco didn't play more than 6 minutes in a game with no Darren Peterson. El Marco's in the doghouse. That's what Bill does. Throws him in the doghouse and says, tell me when you're ready, because I'm not whipping you out anytime soon. And Jaden Dawson, he can't afford to be in the doghouse anymore. He started the year with it, but he can't afford it because we have no three-point shooting. And this guy is apparently a good three-point shooter. So we need to see it come into fruition. Jaden Dawson, what's been going on? Maybe you got to drive, establish another shot because they know it's coming. But at the end of the day, I think, and I do want to speak to his last game. I thought he played pretty well. Second half, he did not play well. But the first half, he played pretty well. He was finding the backside lob. He was doing exactly what we needed him to do. Defensively, it was kind of there, but he's not exactly giving the best impression for Kansas fans at this point in the season. So I'm just saying that as we want to see more out of you, because we were expecting a 40% three-point shooter. We're getting a 27% three-point shooter. We were expecting just honestly like a good shooter in general. And Jaden, like, you're shooting 35% from the field. I know most of those are threes, but that is abysmal. You can't have two players that are supposed to be your veteran-type leadership shooting at 35% or in the 30s. Like, that is Siamese Calderon territory. And no shot to Siamese. Like, that's what he's allowed to do. He's picking up the game. He's picking up, like, all these things. You've been in the game, man. Like, you've got to learn how to help your team out offensively. So, and I think he will. And this is not like, strike him there. This is just early, like, report cards. That's all we're looking at, and these guys will turn it around. I have a strong feeling Melvin will very soon. I'm seeing the break. Even the second half, it was smarter. It was better decision making. But Jaden, we just haven't seen it, and I think we will. Maybe Vegas is the place where he figures it out. Maybe it's UConn's. Who knows? But what we do know is they need to step up. If we're depending on how long we don't have Darren, we need those guys. And last up, we got to shout out our guy Flory. I mean, just been an unbelievable player. Just been, and yes, in the UNC game defensively, he was not excellent. Offensively, he wasn't excellent either. But in every game, he has been essentially I would say our best player. Darren Peterson has played and been great. He's played a couple games. Flory has played every game. He plays a lot of minutes. I mean, you just see some of these minutes in the first half. He's played like 17, and I'm just like, Bill, give him a break. He's huffing and puffing, and he not only that, he'd be getting the ball every single time, post. I like it. I respect it. I want points in the paint. I want that to be a priority for us. But Flory is just busting his butt, getting over almost 2.5 blocks a game. A half a steal, almost 8 rebounds, a couple of assists, 16 points. Like, this is exactly what we were hoping for at Flory Bidunga. That free throw percentage is up over 70 now. He's doing everything we could ask for. And people are still wondering. He even finished with his right hand the other day. I said it like that. That sounds like nothing to so many people, but that shows incredible improvement from a person who essentially had no right hand. We've seen quick dribbles able to penetrate, and he's got Giannis-like strides where he can get from the three-point line to the lower block in 2 steps. Like, it's incredible when he's able to contribute that with, a left-handed dribble in there. He's a great player. We're lucky to have him for another year. Speaking of this year, who knows what's in the future for him? Who knows if it's the NBA? Who knows if he will transfer out? I don't think he would transfer rather than, go to the NBA. Just don't feel it. I feel like last year he really, that was the chance. Yes, we gave him his money to come back and also said, hey, dude, you're going to have the role. There's no Hunter Dickinson. This is all you now. You don't need to go to Auburn and, which would have been a great fit for him, but then Bruce Pearl leaves. So maybe he's really thinking, I don't know. But Flory at the end of the day is exactly who we need. It's an athletic 5, bust their ass to do everything that they can, great lob presence, great rim protector. He does everything that we could possibly want. Sets a billion screens, works so hard. Flory Bidunga, flowers to you. You have been our 5-game stretch MVP. That's a new award. Congratulations to Flory Bidunga. 5-game stretch MVP. That is an excellent performance. Who will be the 10-game? Who knows? No, but he's been excellent. We appreciate the kind of effort level that he's been putting in. We've seen the improvements that we've kind of been wondering about. We've seen improvement in the free throw shooting. He's not, missing both on the both end. He's getting a lot of blocks. He's almost impacting every single shot. These are the statistics that we like to see, and visually, how can you now watch Flory Bidunga and say this guy's giving everything for this Kansas team who desperately needs it? So, shout out, Flory's flying. Dawson, he'll step up. Melvin, he'll step up. Everyone will. Shout out Davion Thompson. Choose Kansas. We want you. We would love you to have you in a couple years. But thank you again, guys, so much for watching. I appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know about the game. Let me know about what you think about next week in Vegas. What do you know? Just appreciate you guys so much, and rock chalk. Go Jayhawks.